Flávio Bolsonaro, he's so uncreative that he copies his father. Well, stop and think. His campaign manager first tells him to drop Bolsonaro from his name, but he keeps doing the same things as his father. Why, André? Because there's no innovation, like father, like son. No more Bolsonaro, guys. He doesn't even have creativity. He's going to imitate his father with the motorcycle rallies, and he's going to start where Bolsonaro was stabbed. The stabbing, the knife attack, anyway. Exactly for what? To stir up the whole situation? Maybe he's looking for a way to play the victim too. It's totally unhinged. And a new poll just came out and it shows he's tanked for good. Take a look here, my dear. Flávio imitates Bolsonaro and will do motorcycle rallies, one of them in Juiz de Fora, the place of the stabbing. Even though he took the last name out of his slogan, the strategy is to get closer to the political and electoral base built by his father over the past few years. Of course, right? His base is very weak, right? And all that, and Bolsonaro, he's trying to take Bolsonaro's political capital, but removing the name Bolsonaro from the ticket, leaving just Flávio and not Flávio Bolsonaro. It's crazy, right, guys? And do you think he's looking to get stabbed? Guys, just to play the poor, pitiful, broke guy, stay alert. I don't doubt anything. You know what? I don't doubt anything about these people. Not even a little bit. That's right. Stay alert. Stay alert. And this survey here just cleared everything up. With 53 days left until the elections, third-way candidates are struggling in the polls. In the CNT MDA poll, released this Tuesday, yesterday, Caiado has 4% support, Zema with 3.3% support, and Renan with 2.8% support. Lula has 42.4% support, and Flávio drops. Flavio has 28.7% support. The survey interviewed 2,002 people between August 5th and August 9th and has a margin of error of 2.2 percentage points. The survey is registered with the Superior Electoral Court under the numbers shown there. Notice that Lula has almost 43% support. And Flávio has 28% support. The survey. I've been telling you that we need to get more engaged, talk to more people, make more people aware, because Lula has a real chance of winning in the first round. Today, Lula has a real chance of winning in the first round with 50% or more of the votes. Okay? And it's interesting that these people here, look, are all right-wing. Who are these people going to take votes from? They're not going to take votes from Lula. They're going to take votes from Flávio Bolsonaro, but only in the first round. That's why we have to get involved, so that Lula wins in the first round. Because all the other candidates who have put themselves forward, besides these here, are all from the right and take votes away from Flávio Bolsonaro. So we have to rally behind Lula, stick with Lula to see if he can win these elections in the first round. Especially because these people here who take votes away from Flávio Bolsonaro in the first round are going to team up and join Flávio in the second round to try to bring down Lula. It will be everyone united against Lula in the second round. And the effort will be huge. And the fight will be very tough, even bigger than the first round itself. So we have to stay alert to this situation. See, my dear, make it big, for God's sake. Here, look. Caiado, Zema, and Renan don't get more than 5 in recent polls and are trying to establish themselves as an alternative to Lula and Flávio, right? Before, they were kind of covering up for Flávio, right? Now they're really going after Flavio. Why? For them to gain support, pay attention to this, for these people, Zema, Caiado, Renan Santos, for them to gain support in the polls, they have to go after Flavio because they take votes away from Flavio, not from Lula. Did you get it? So it's going to be attacks coming from all sides against Flavio, not just from the left, but the right itself will do that job in the first round. In the second round, if there is one, they will unite. The pot calling the kettle black, they will all be together to try to bring down Lula. That's why our engagement is so important for the first round, even with the high tariffs. Brazil breaks export record in July and surplus grows by 31.9%. Exports totaled $34.1 billion in July, the highest value ever for the month. China and the European Union drive the increase, while sales to the United States fall 12.2% year on year. That's what I tell you all. If you don't want it, someone else does. Yeah, so stop being silly. Then the owner of the foreign shop is doing it over there, right? During the day and all that, they are losing ground. And Lula is managing to enter other markets in the European Union, China, with Russia, and so on. Do you understand, my dear? That's what a real leader is. Even with all the boycotts, even with all the strategies from the United States to try to bring down Lula, to try to mess with us here, there was an increase in exports thanks to Lula's efforts. Fly, take that. Suck on the sugar cane because it's really sweet, really sweet, really sweet, but it's tough. And the way it goes, it comes back. No, lady troublemaker, you don't want it? There are people who want it. Look here, Congressman Rogério Correia talked a little about this. Pay attention.
Pay attention. Good news. Really good. Inflation is slowing down. 0.07. July's inflation dropped a lot compared to the year. 4.4. It's lower than the established target. But I'll give you another piece of news. Even better. Now let's get to the poll. President Lula, less than 1% of the valid votes away from winning the election in the first round. Look, folks, this good news is because life is getting better, right? Let's be honest. Inflation is going down, but at the same time, the employment level stays the same or even increases. And more than that, workers' income is also going up. And the outlook for the next government, President Lula's government, is to do even better. That's what President Lula is saying. We already know how to do more, and we're going to do even more now in our fourth term. So everyone, is everybody excited, huh? Always in the fight. Whoa.
Whoa, make the L. Meanwhile, where's Flavio, Andrea? Flavio, you know, right? Is he copying his dad's antics? And he still hasn't explained it. It's been almost, I think, 90 days since he demanded money from Daniel Volcaro. And to this day, he hasn't explained what he did with the money, where Daniel Volcaro's money went. And when you ask him, he goes, oh, and Lula, and Dulinho, and Petrinho, and then what? The one who doesn't answer is a big-time scammer. Congressman Lindenberg Farias talked about this here. Look, because I want to know too. Where's the accounting for it? Where's the money from Bolsonaro's Pangaré movie? Where did Daniel Volcaro's billions go?
My father.
Look at the nerve of this Flávio Bolsonaro. Check out what?
Did you, sir, meet with other parliamentarians? So many parliamentarians. Was it when you went to explain yourself about the Mastro case? Do you consider this episode to be resolved with your circle?
Look, the one who owes explanations is Lula, right?
What do you mean? Is it Lula who owes an explanation? Lula was there at Volcaro's house the day after he got out of prison with an Enco monitor to ask for money. Look, that last meeting you attended with the parliament members, you said you would present everything a month later. Until now, nobody knows what happened to the 61 million that Volcaro gave for the movie. But it's a lot. Stop now. Shouldn't we are we going to forget about this? Do you think so? Still no explanation. You said you didn't know Volcaro. Then those recordings show up, big bro. Give me a clue. Big bro, I am and always will be with you. I saw your campaign brand, your slogan, that V. That V, you're not fooling us with your campaign. It's the V for Volcaro. Volcaro and Flávio Bolsonaro are together in this process. Look at the nerve of this guy.
Oh my, guys, the slogan, if I'm not mistaken, is Flavio's, right? His new campaign strategist slogan is, "Let's win." That's what looked bad, right? The V, everyone is saying that it's a message. That V, it's the V for Volcaro. It's Flávio sending the message through Volcaro. There in prison, keep your mouth shut, because I'm with you until the end. Andrea, could it be a subliminal message? I don't know. I just know that in this world, there are no coincidences. Even the smallest detail, they think before putting the beta guy there and then put the big V, it can only be V for Volcaro. And sending a message to Volcaro, who's there in jail, what do you think? I don't doubt it. On the contrary, I even believe it, as my grandmother used to say. I even believe in the proposed situation. No, guys, for God's sake, give me a break. Meanwhile, Flavio says that everything is just fine. That everything is fine. Posting an AI-generated video using the person's image, the person's body, and the person's voice without the person's authorization. That it's all fine, that this is right, that this is freedom of speech. Oh my God, freedom of speech. So that means someone can take your body, your voice, your image, use it with artificial intelligence, post it on social media, and it's freedom of speech without your authorization. And that's all fine. Oh my God, Jesus. Okay, no, for God's sake. Flávio Bolsonaro argues before the TSE for the use of AI without the consent of the person portrayed. The senator's defense tries to avoid punishment for using his father's avatar at the PL convention. The president of the TSE, Cássio Nunes Marques, will meet with the other ministers of the court this Wednesday to discuss the case. Are you going to tell or should I? There's no way even Nunes Marques or André Mendonça can cover for Flávio Bolsonaro. In this case, I don't believe they're going to cover for him. Why? Because the TSC's jurisprudence is well established. There are resolutions, regulations. You can't use AI deepfakes in the electoral process. Especially not if you don't have the person's authorization to use their image and voice. But for Flávio, that's freedom of speech. It's all fine. What kind of freedom of speech is this, people? What kind of craziness is this? They're not going to go after Flávio. No, they're not going to go after Flávio. They're not going to invalidate his candidacy registration, which he hasn't even done yet. He's looking for a better running mate, right? They're not going to, no, but they are going to hit him with a hefty fine. They are. And it has to be a heavy fine to set an example for others. Because here's the thing. If it's allowed, just say right away that it's allowed. Because then everyone will use it. The left will use it too. Use it. The age of weapons. Isn't that true now? If it's not allowed, just settle it right away. Nunes Marques scheduled a meeting today with the ministers to talk about this. And afterwards, the trial and the decision should come. And it's going to be tough on the defendant. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a beating on Flávio Bolsonaro. That's not allowed. And, I repeat, neither Nunes Marques nor André Mendonça should cover this up because you just can't. And meanwhile, shooting yourself in the foot gets worse every day. They did a survey in Argentina to find out if the people there are liking this mess caused by Flavio. With Javier Milei and Javier Milei's attacks on Lula. And the survey. 70% of Argentina's population says they're not satisfied with this. That this is not the behavior of a president of the republic. Talk about shooting himself in the foot. Flávio Bolsonaro just stuck himself to it. He allies himself with the dregs because nobody wants him. Look here, okay? Workers' Party supporters celebrate an Argentine poll about Milei's attacks on Lula. The survey, conducted by a public opinion consultancy in Argentina, shows that 70% of those interviewed are against Javier Milei's stance of constantly attacking Lula. Stop and think. If the people of Argentina are against it, imagine here in Brazil. Obviously not. Oops. Calm down, don't get nervous, don't be anxious. Obviously, the Bolsonaro supporters applaud. Right? Because they love the sleaze and the scum. Right? They act like champions of justice, morality, and Jesus, but they love the sleaze. Of course, they applaud, but I'm sure that most of the population doesn't agree with that. It's a matter of protocol, a matter of respect. Do you understand? Do you understand? And it's shooting yourself in the foot, right? Javier Milei is actually helping Lula, just like Donald Trump is helping Lula with everything he's doing. First, because it creates a favorable environment for Lula to show the statesman that he is. That's the first situation. And the second is that nobody likes a traitor to their country. Lula has a problem. Who has to solve it? Us. And where are we going to solve it? On the first Sunday of October, in the election where we will choose our president, we are the ones who will solve it. We are the ones who have to decide, not any foreign government. Javier Milei and Trump are meddling in our backyard. Do you understand, my dear? So that's shooting yourself in the foot. And what will it end up leading to? To Lula gaining even more ground. And meanwhile, do you remember that network, that thing, Discord, that had some issues and all that stuff? Yanya said it had to be taken down and all. Well, that produced a very important result. Exclusive, the MPG will suspend live streams on Discord after pressure from Janja. The National Data Protection Agency will order the suspension of live streams on Discord. The measure is the first step to meet the demands of the First Lady, Janja da Silva, who has been advocating for the platform to be blocked in Brazil. In Brazil, the crimes in Brazil include offenses this platform itself commits and also lets criminals commit on it. Pornography and sexual material online violate laws such as the Penal Code, the Child and Adolescent Statute, and the Civil Rights Framework for the Internet. This covers everything from unauthorized exposure of adults to the serious exploitation of minors. There they do everything: sex, drugs, incitement to crime, incitement to suicide, involving minors, teenagers, and adults, obviously. There, it's no man's land, where all that's left is for some Bolsonaro supporter to come along and talk. That's not freedom of speech. In fact, there was even an incident last week where a young woman took her own life during a game inside Discord. A challenge, one of those strange, crazy ones, you know? So it really needs to be suspended. If you don't like it, go jump in a lake. Huh? Bye. Go to hell. We have to protect ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, our kids and teenagers. And Yanya is right. She is not wrong. Congratulations to Yanya. You really have to go for it, Yanya. Yanya, show up more, Yanya. Go all out. Meanwhile, the federal police asks Moraes to decide the fate of 10 weapons seized from Bolsonaro. The federal police asked Minister Alexandre de Moraes to decide what to do with the former president's arsenal, claiming that the decision is not within their authority. While the decision has not yet been made, the weapons remain in the storage facilities of the federal police in the federal district. Bolsonaro has 10 weapons. All of them are seized. And the federal police want to know what we are going to do with these weapons, because it's not the federal police's job to keep holding on to anyone's weapons. According to the disarmament statute, there are two options for these weapons. Which ones, Andrea? Destruction or donation? Minister Alexandre de Moraes must order the weapons destroyed or donated to an appropriate institution. Since most of his weapons are for restricted use, they should be donated to the army. Most likely, that's what Minister Alexandre de Moraes will determine. The weapons will be donated to the appropriate institutions, with restricted weapons going to the army. Army, police, even the federal police itself, Minister Alexandre de Moraes can do that. Look, he can add these weapons to the collection of the federal police, the federal highway police, and so on. A prisoner shouldn't have a weapon, or else they can be destroyed. If necessary, they can also be destroyed. And speaking of traitors to the country, Congressman Ottoni de Paula talked a little bit about this whole situation, about the attempted interference by the United States here in Brazil. Shall we see what he said here? Shall we check it out? Put it, Lula, 4 times. Not here, junk, not here. Pay attention.
Here, I hope you watch this video. It's a video that talks about national sovereignty or international subservience. Watch it with me.
If it were Sweden, you wouldn't be downplaying it. That was stupid. You wouldn't be downplaying it.
He calls Brazil trash, right?
Argentina said the Malvinas were theirs, but he has 2. He lost. The Amazon is ours, always.
What he's saying here is that the Amazon isn't ours. And he mentions that when Argentina tried to stand up and say the Malvinas belong to them, they lost. That's what he's saying. Therefore, we need to understand our place and that there's no way to fight against American interests. Let's keep watching.
The Amazon is no longer ours nowadays. Thank you. Mineral wealth, biodiversity, fresh water, empty space, etc. That's not what it's supposed to be there anymore. From democratic countries, democratic, right? And with women's power, influence in the world. The Amazon cannot be forgotten.
Amazon cannot possibly be forgotten or sidelined.
We have a lot of wealth. I would really like to export it together with the United States. We would really like to tap these resources together with the United States.
Sure what that means.
Here he is, already the president of the republic, talking to Al Gore. The subservient behavior is so great that even Al Gore can't believe what the president of Brazil is proposing, right? Which is to exploit the Amazon together with the Americans in a subservient way.
The American, the president who likes Brazil and the Amazon could be the solution for the world. I know, Joao, I'm not on the enemy side. We need to talk. I'm always willing to talk. Thank you.
He doesn't believe it. Look at the lack of respect towards then President Bolsonaro. He turns his back on the president. He ends the conversation with Bolsonaro. Guys, that's it. What Flávio Bolsonaro does when he uses this policy of subservience to the Americans is just reproducing the thinking of former President Bolsonaro, his father. He and Eduardo Bolsonaro work so that our foreign policy is a policy that serves Trump's interests here in Brazil. Now you understand why Trump needs Flávio Bolsonaro to become president. It's because he will have a lackey in the presidency of the republic. In these next elections, we will have to decide, Either we elect someone who fights for national sovereignty, or we will elect a family that wants Brazilian subservience to American interests.
That's right, said by a right-wing Congressman Ottoni de Paula. That's why I always tell you, the issue of our sovereignty goes beyond party labels. It doesn't matter if you're right-wing, left-wing, or centrist. In this area, we all have to be united in defense of our sovereignty. It's ours, our Brazil, our peaks, our life, our territory. Do you understand? So it's very important to have this awareness. And the Bolsonaro family, the videos themselves showed it, has always been, a lackey. They've always been bootlickers of the United States. And Flavio Bolsonaro, like father, like son, it's the same thing. And that's why no more Bolsonaro, father or son. Erica Hilton is being attacked there in the Chamber of Deputies. Look here, my dear. The Chamber's Ethics Council is conducting a preliminary review that could lead to the loss of her mandate. Regarding Erica Hilton, the committee proceeded with the complaint filed by the Missão Party against the Congresswoman for a post on social media. The vote was 10-5 in favor of moving forward. Of ethics, they accepted the report, the preliminary report to charge Erica Hilton, which could result in her losing her mandate. And why, André? Because she posted this right here. Look. I'm not at all worried if the scum of society didn't like it. The opinion of idiotic transphobes is the last thing I care about, wrote the Congresswoman. That's her opinion. And that's it, it's over. It's over about those who are transphobic. The problem isn't her opinion about the transphobic person. The problem is the transphobic person. But then Congressman Cabo Gilberto, a Bolsonaro supporter, went there and filed a complaint against her. His preliminary report was approved by a vote of 10-5 in the Ethics Council. The Ethics Council today has become a tool to persecute political opponents. There's nothing ethical about it. Nothing at all. We even remember the case of Glauber Braga, who had his mandate suspended. In fact, Glauber Braga spoke out and expressed his support for Erica Hilton, even saying that the Ethics Council has no ethics or decorum anymore. It's being used to persecute political opponents. It's a shame. And what about Hugo Mota? Where is he? Let it go, let it run wild, right, Hugo Mota? What a shame, shame. Pay attention here.
Pay attention here. A council without ethics has to go. It's becoming a habit. See you next time. They attack. And then when the person defends themselves, they sick the ethics council on them to try to silence them.
I'll
want
come
the
back
call.
here.
A council without ethics has to end. It's becoming common practice. They attack, they assault, and then when the person defends themselves, they sick the ethics council on people to try to silence dissenting voices. What happened today in the ethics committee regarding Congresswoman Erica Hilton is absurd, a cowardly act. Congresswoman Erica Hilton was attacked, she was assaulted, and then when she defends herself, the ethics committee of the House of Representatives now opens proceedings to consider the expulsion of Congresswoman Erica Hilton. This is a disgrace. All my solidarity with Congresswoman Erica Hilton and the so-called Ethics Committee. I repeat, it has to end. I want to know, when is the so-called Ethics Committee going to evaluate any case of parliamentarians involved with the secret budget? When is that going to happen? This complaint against Representative Erica Hilton is from March. And now then, the proceedings now enter the admissibility stage. But also in March, they so announced the filing of a complaint for the removal of the mandate of deputies who have already been convicted by higher courts for embezzlement of public funds, for misuse of budget amendments, more specifically, through the secret budget. And the news I have, and I asked the board if that's really the case, is that even though the complaint was filed in the same month, it did not reach the Ethics Committee for deliberation. 2 federal deputies have already been convicted for embezzlement of public funds, for embezzlement of amendment funds, through the secret budget. And his case is stalled on the desk while they move forward with retaliation against Congresswoman Erica Hilton. I'll go further. I filed a complaint with the Internal Affairs Office so that Congressman Sochinis Cavalcante, leader of the PL, could be held responsible for the more than 400,000 reais that were found in his locker. I asked, was that money from the secret budget? So far, I haven't heard of any progress made by the Internal Affairs Department regarding this case. Let's move on to the latest events. Representative Alfredo Gaspar announced as the vice presidential candidate for Mr. Flávio Bolsonaro. Alfredo Gaspar allocates 6 million reais in PIX amendments to the municipality in Alagoas called São José da Laje. 6 million reais. PIS amendments. The Federal Court of Accounts does an audit and says there's something fishy going on. This was the one using them, obviously, is me. But in the popular reading of what was in that report, without traceability, without the possibility of effectively verifying what had been done with public funds, it's clear that the lack of oversight leads to this situation and this circumstance. The congressman who is today then, Flávio Bolsonaro's running mate, comes out publicly and says, I have nothing to do with this. I only made the recommendation for the amendment. 6 million reais in amendment funds. That was the response from the vice presidential candidate on Flávio Bolsonaro's ticket. I'm not the one who has the obligation to oversee. It's the oversight bodies. I have nothing to do with that. The city hall is the one that has to be accountable. And now I want to bring up an allegation that until now, many of you gentlemen and ladies don't know about. The congressman can say that he had nothing to do with it. A complaint arrived at my office and I went to check it out. And the allegation checks out. The vice mayor of the municipality of São José da Laje had been appointed to the vice presidential candidate's office before taking office as vice mayor. And then you might say, no, but still he had nothing to do with it. The vice mayor left, and who took her place? Her husband, her partner. He was in the office of Congressman Alfredo Gaspar, nominated as vice, candidate for president on Flávio Bolsonaro's ticket. How come? He says he has nothing to do with it, that it's the city's responsibility. If those responsible for handling that money on the ground in the municipality were until very recently part of their team, in fact, even until the 90th year, 2026, they were appointed in his office. Look, this guy won't be able to remain viable as a candidate at all. because he can't say that the responsibility isn't his. Because his fingerprints are all over this 6 million real PIX amendment for this town of 20,000 inhabitants. In this city, with the involvement and influence of the former president of the chamber, Mr. Arthur Lira, which is absolutely no surprise to anyone. And that's just going to be left like that. If that wasn't enough, when is the Ethics Council going to look into the complaint I made in this chamber? That Mrs. Mariangela Fialek, known as Tuka, known as the hands-on operator of the secret budget, continues to carry out her activities in the office of the Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies. When will it be that the Chamber of Deputies will use its oversight bodies not to persecute those who rebel against corruption, but rather to hold accountable those who commit corruption? Miss Mariangela Fialek was caught. Then her cell phone was seized. And on her cell phone are her conversations with a very well-known person from Brazilian history who 10 years ago was sitting right there in that president's chair, leading the session with the first stage of the coup, with the impeachment of former President Dilma Rousseff. I'm talking about Eduardo Cunha.
In short, Erika Hilton, who will soon be officially facing the process that could strip her of her seat because she defended herself against the transphobes. There's only this Cavalcante with 400,000 at his house, which was found by the federal police. And to this day, he hasn't explained it. He's not facing the Ethics Council, nothing. Alfredo Gaspar, Flávio, Bolsonaro's running mate. There's suspicion surrounding those 6 million he sent to a town of 20,000 people whose deputy mayor and that other guy worked in his office. And he's not before the Ethics Committee. A bunch of situations that should be before the Ethics Committee and aren't. Gustavo Gaia. Gustavo Gaia was indicted by the civil police for corruption, federal deputy for Goiás, and he's not before the Ethics Committee. Pastor Gil, federal deputy from PL convicted of corruption, is not before the Ethics Committee. Joãozinho Maranhãozinho, federal deputy from PL, who was also convicted of corruption in the case of misappropriation of parliamentary amendments, already convicted by the Supreme Court, is also not before the Ethics Committee. And Erika, because she defended herself against the transphobes, calling them the idiots they are. She was sent to the Ethics Committee of the Chamber of Deputies. What a shame, guys. So I don't like to say that the National Congress is the enemy of the people. I don't like that term. But I understand why, because a lot of people still say that. It's because of these situations. How does Hugo Mota allow this to happen? Where's Zé Trovão's punishment? He invaded the presiding board under Hugo Mota. They've been stalling until today. For Marcos Polon, who didn't want to give up the presidency, just like Van Rato, he didn't want to give it up either. The process dragged on and on. I don't even know if they were ever removed, even though they should have been. And nothing happened. So today, the Ethics Council has become a tool for political persecution against the opponents of the PL's criminal racket. That's what's happening. It's a shame. To some extent, Congress is indeed an enemy of the people. Not without reason, Hugo Mota has one of the worst approval ratings in the history of federal deputies. Because he could. He could bring order to the house, but he doesn't. He lets the mess happen. It's a shame, Goya. I want to play the video of the congressman, Pastor Henrique Vieira. He draws our attention. Pay attention to this. Look at this.
Hey guys, another voting intention poll. Now it's CNT. Lula, our president, leads in the first and second rounds. We remain ahead.
What a decisive moment.
What we're facing is no small thing. It's the far right. It's barbarism. It's misinformation. It's fake news. It's religious fanaticism. It's pro-gun ideology, militia logic. It's putting hate into practice. It's chaos. It's against the people. They're against ending the 6 days on, 1 day off work schedule. They're against a secular state and democracy. They deny science and research. They're destroying forests. Anyway, it's the politics of chaos, but we're making progress. We have a vision for the country in our minds and in our hearts. Eradicate hunger, create jobs, distribute income, carry out agrarian reform, value the South, expand public education, give opportunities to our youth, respect diversity, take care of the environment. While they waste time with hate and money and guns. Let's move forward with a national sovereignty project. Democracy, social justice, racial justice, celebration of diversity. We can't let the toxic air of the far right take over our hearts. No, we're standing strong, doing this kind of activist work in Congress with a lot of elegance and conviction. Our causes are grounded in love and invincible. It's very hard to stop us. We're ready to win. Fraternal hug.
In short, Lula, 4-time winner. Did you get the code? Get the code. Get the code. In short, Lula, 4-time winner. We're all united for this. By the way, Alexandre de Moraes has just ruled that judges, justices, and appellate judges, public prosecutor's office, prosecutors, federal prosecutors must return it. Money they received above the 35,000 limit allowed by a decision of the Federal Supreme Court's full bench this year. He said they will have to return the amounts received as extra perks. That's why it bothers them a lot. Why? Because he has the courage to take on the powerful. With his own body right there, that bothers a lot of people. You understand? Just like Flavio Dino. He had the courage to face it. Right, the super salaries, the issue of the amendments that he's tackling head on to try to resolve. Right, the issue of the cushy compulsory retirement. That's why they bother people. And that's why we see a bunch of misleading headlines, a lot of wrong situations, right, Flavio, where they defend the criminals just to attack the Supreme Court justice, especially Flavio Dino and Alexandre de Moraes. Why? Because they are stirring up a hornet's nest and bothering a lot of people. So be careful, my dear. Don't fall for these people's lies, okay? Got it? Go for it, Xandão, go for it. Gino, you're the man, you're amazing. And Lula is a 4-time winner. Hit the like button, like, comment, and share. I'll be back at 4:30 p.m. At 8 p.m., I'll be on the Andre Gonçalves channel live. And at 10 p.m., I'll be here. Last news of the day. The links are in the first comment and join the WhatsApp group so you don't miss anything. Kisses. Thank you. Bye-bye.